I want to start off with what might not seem like the most obvious question. Do you really want to experience the world again as if for the first time? I mean, stability, consistency, reliability all seem kind of comforting right now, especially in times of COVID-19 and the 200,000 deaths here in the United States, and hurricanes, and fires on the West Coast, and civil unrest, and divisive politics, and QAnon, and Boogaloo Boys, and, oh my goodness, the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Holy guacamole, what do we do? That was the last straw that broke my back. I'm exhausted from being given the opportunity to experience the world differently. I would like a stable worldview for a change. It's been a long, cold, lonely 2020. When is the sun coming? When will it be all right again? In Mark Nepo's reading, you heard, the heart is very much like a miraculous balloon. Its lightness comes from staying full. Meeting the days with our full heart prevents collapse. This is why 90-year-old widows remain committed to tending flowers in the spring. Why 10-year-olds who have little to eat take care of stray cats. Why painters going blind paint more. Why composers going deaf write great symphonies. It's why when we think that we can't possibly go on, we let out a sigh that goes back through the centuries, and then, despite all our experience, we inhale and try again. Sometimes lately, I wonder if I can try again. After trying again and again and again this year, filling my heart time and again just to have it deflate. I wonder if some of you are feeling that way. Do you wonder why you haven't written more poems or plays or books during this time, or painted compelling pieces of art, or offered more assistance to those who've been impacted by the hurricanes or the wildfires? Speaking of the fires, I want to tell you, I talked with our junior high and high school youth this last week, Sunday, and one of them said to me and to the group that they'd like to do something for those impacted by the wildfires on the West Coast. So the next time we meet, the group is going to come together and talk about what they want to do to help those impacted by those wildfires. I have to say I was inspired by these young people. In one way or another, they inflated my heart that day. Is feeling deflated impacting how I see the world right now? How I experience the world right now? How could it not? Nevertheless, I've persisted in being consistent with my spiritual practices and my exercise to bring some semblance of stability into my life. I do want to turn to this time of constant change, of instability, of hurt, of suffering. I want to turn it into something constructive, something meaningful, something beautiful, not just for my sake, but to be helpful to someone besides me. So, I'm reading a story to the kids at the end of the service. It's called The Lion's Whisker. The story is about a man and his stepdaughter, and they're not getting along. And so the man goes to an elder and asks him for help. And the elder says, well, I can make you this magic potion that will make your daughter loving. The thing is, there's this one ingredient I need. A living lion's whisker. And so the father goes out and slowly develops a relationship with the lion until finally it's safe enough for him to pluck a whisker from the lion's chin. Well, guess what? Turns out he doesn't need the potion after all, because he figures out through his relationship with the lion how to be patient, how to be compassionate. The father's view of the stepdaughter and of himself changes, and he returns home to his family, seeing them as if for the first time. Now, don't give the ending away to the kids. It's a great story. Okay? Anyway, I found this story for this Sunday in a book. It was called Stories of Our Faith, Exploring Our Unitarian Universalist Principles and Sources Through Wisdom Tales. It's by Gail Forsyth Vale. So, think for a moment. Think about this story. Which of our principles or sources do you think this story was exemplifying? Well, it was our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You see, this story calls us to look inside ourselves for the qualities that heal and nurture, like patience, kindness, like truly being able to appreciate and notice others. This is a story of discovery, a journey to change the way we see our life, our relationships, ourselves. And I realized as I read this story, I needed the story this week. I needed to be reminded that I'm on a journey, that what's happening around me won't always seem so catastrophic, that I need to nurture patience and compassion and kindness more so now than I have maybe in my whole life. That's why when I think I can't possibly try again, I have to let out that sigh that goes back through the centuries. And then, despite all my experiences, I have to inhale and try again. Engineer, reader, thinker, dreamer, scholar, Latter-day Saint Jeffrey Whittison wrote on the website Quora, "My dad was telling me about how he was watching a nature documentary following a lioness taking care of her cubs. There was one scene where she was hunting for an antelope for herself and for her children. And she tried to chase it down, but it escaped at the last minute. The documentary for the viewers was about sympathizing for the lioness. And the failure to get the antelope became a really sad moment, asking what were her babies going to eat that night. My dad, he said, it really struck him in that moment that if he'd been watching a documentary about the antelope, that moment would present one of joyous triumphant that the antelope got away. She escaped some ravenous beast who was stalking her and will get to live. Which character you're told to sympathize with tells everything. I share this with you because our view of the world, how we experience things, can change in a flash. With a word, with someone offering a perspective, with someone sharing an experience with you, with new or different information. It's easy to forget how much our personal perception impacts our day-to-day life. Simply taking a step back and thinking about a situation, person, or emotion from a different perspective can completely change your experience of it. However, we're often so caught up in the moment, living in the moment, which is good to a point, that we often forget that our perceptions are constantly filtering our experiences against our worldview, how we see the world. You see, it's within us, the way we see the world, the spin we put on it. It's us. Every minute of every day, there's a chance to see things from a million different perspectives. And we can choose to change our own perspective. One way might be trying to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to see the world through their eyes. Now, sometimes the gifts of a change in perspective are given spontaneously, and our hearts inflate, and our worldview is expanded, like with the youth I talked with on Sunday. Sometimes it's up to us to search for some truth or meaning that can aid us on our journey and expand our worldview. But my friends, be careful in the search. You see, we are hardwired to look and find truth and meaning that reinforces a static, stable worldview that can leave our hearts uninflated and our decisions less than helpful. A friend of mine really wanted and applied for a job. She told me about it in confidence. Now, I thought I could put in for that job. It was an employee assistance program at NASA JSC. It was a government job. I'd be set for life. I rationalized I was more qualified. I knew more people out there. I knew the system and the environment that all these workers worked in. Now, I think I've told you this story before, but I didn't mention this. When I first thought about going to apply for this job, I decided I needed to talk to people I trusted to see what they thought about this. And so I talked to a person and another person and another person until I talked to someone who agreed with me. He had the same rationalization that I did. I had more experience with the people out there. I was better qualified. He said all the right things. I was sorely tempted to embrace my own worldview said by somebody else. Fortunately, I listened to the discomfort in my soul, and I went a different way. I chose a different path. But it was tempting. A search for truth and meaning is not about finding a truth or meaning that reinforces your worldview, but about a search for truth and meaning that challenges your worldview, that offers you something different, a new way of seeing a situation, whatever situation you find yourself in, so that you can grow and learn and expand your heart. One more thing. Be careful on your search, especially us rational Unitarian Universalists. When you believe that you have found what is absolutely true and right and rational and completely free of bias, stop. Question that. In an article called "Why Do People View the World So Differently?" by consultant Roxanne Barr, I found this. Tim Harford, the undercover economist at the Financial Times, recently wrote about naive realism, calling it the seductive sense that we're seeing the world as it truly is, free of bias. He goes on to say that this is such an attractive illusion that whenever we meet someone who contradicts our worldview, we instinctively believe we've met someone who is deluded rather than question our own rationale. Famed psychologist Lee Ross argues that naive realism leads people to believe they have arrived at their opinions, political, interpersonal, or otherwise, after careful, rational analysis without bias. As Ross points out, however, our personal realities are not accurate portrayals of what is objectively occurring, but our observations that involve perceptions and our interpretation of the world, always filtered through our worldview. In this time of COVID-19, and for that matter, this whole blankety-blank year, it is challenging to simply open ourselves up to seeing the world differently in a way that helps us grow and learn and expand our hearts. It's easy to believe we know what is right, what is true, what is unbiased. But these views hamper us. They keep us from asking questions like, what is the opportunity in seeing the world differently? And questions like, is there an opportunity here in this situation, again, whatever that situation is, to show mercy rather than acquiring power? Is there an opportunity in a situation to develop humility rather than pride? Is there an opportunity in this situation to show compassion rather than selfishness? I know what I'm proposing is difficult. It's difficult for me. I can be so tired, so exhausted from all that's going on. I just want things to be better, back to normal, or at least no more catastrophic events, at least for a little while. But I have no control over all this. But what I can do, I can control what I do with everything that comes in through my perception. I can control how I respond to what's going on. I can choose a direction for my search for truth and meaning that will lead me to a worldview that will let me experience life in terms of looking for beauty, wonder, joy all around and within, rather than staying in a worldview of fear and anger and sadness, resentment. And I don't want to be neutral about the world either. I read something that the Buddha said, "Let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot, at least we learned a little. If we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. If we didn't get sick, if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let's all be thankful that we're not dead." I want to be more engaged than that. I want to be thankful for being able to see the miraculous in the world around me and within me. I'm searching for a worldview that continues to expand so I can see wonder even in the smallest things. Feel joy in a hello, and curiosity in hearing someone else's view of the world. And continue growing my heart and filling my heart with the many things that life offers. I am committed to the search for this worldview, for it also includes blessings for me, like increasing my humility, like working for justice and peace and equity, like deepening my relationships with others through compassion and love. In this journey, I've pledged to refrain from making snap judgments, to ask others what they think about a situation, particularly those who have ideas that are different from my own, to look for disconfirming information rather than trying to find facts or opinions that affirm my own. I've pledged to continue to imagine myself in other people's shoes rather than simply experience the world through my own static worldview. And I won't try to figure out who's right and who's wrong, but approach differences as a chance for two people or any number of people to work out a puzzle or figure out a source of misinformation or misunderstanding. To be honest with you, I do these things so my heart doesn't remain deflated. It's selfish, I know. Deflation also is not the Unitarian Universalist way. Our fourth principle The responsible search for truth and meaning sets us on a path that leads to an expanded worldview. So I invite you to find a way of intentionally searching for truth and meaning that offers you more. That's constructive, joyful, meaningful. One that doesn't get caught up in the seemingly catastrophic year we find ourselves in. Not to say that we won't experience emotions and reactions. We can deal with them. But we don't let them control us, and we don't let them control our journey or our search. We take a path that offers us something more, different, an expanded view of the world, an expansion of our hearts. Perhaps, the words I am about to share with you will be the beginning or a continuation of this journey for you. My friends, let go of certainty. Let go of any idea about what you should be thinking. Be with yourself as you are. Be curious about who you are. Love how you are in the world. And gently take deep breaths. Maybe even big sighs. And then re-enter the present moment in the stream of your life.